Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Excuse me there. Had a little cough there in my throat as I'm saying that. So, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for here on this Monday, the first Monday of the new year, the first Monday of the new decade, January 6th. How's it going out there? Hope you all had a safe and happy New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. We're finally out of what is probably the most hectic part of the calendar each and every single year, and that's the holiday season. And we're into a new year, new time. The 2020s, I guess we're going to call this. Now, a lot of good things going on right now, especially with the NFL playoffs. Talk about all of that throughout this hour, because what a captivating weekend it was. Me being someone that, obviously my team has not been in it for, was it now 9 years since the Jets made the playoffs. My only real rooting interest is for the Patriots not to win another Super Bowl championship. My only real rooting interest is rooting against them because, no matter what sport it is, you're a sports fan, you don't want to see a division rival, a rival if we want to call it. I don't know how much of a rivalry it truly has been over the years, but you don't want to see a division opponent win a championship. If you're miserable, if your team is not going to be there, not going to be in it, then you want their team to be out of it as well. Well, Saturday was kind of a double whammy because for the first time in a very long time, at least I can remember, had not just one, but two AFC East opponents in the playoffs, with the Patriots going up against the Tennessee Titans in the nightcap. And our day started off with the yearly tradition that is the Houston Texans playing a 4:30 game on Wild Card Saturday, hosting the Buffalo Bills. And you know what? Of all the games, this was the one that I didn't really get a good feel of going into it, just because, the Bills is the first time this young group has been there, first time for Josh Allen being in a postseason setting. And as we know, and he's even admitted, he tends to get a little too jacked up in going into games. He's a guy that is traditionally a slow starter and will get going as the game goes on. I mean, I've said it recently, there's a little bit of Tim Tebow in him, if you will. Stronger arm, same accuracy problems, maybe a little bit better runner, but kind of that same kind of player where he's not going to be your traditional stand in the pocket, throw down the field quarterback. He's going to use his legs a lot. But for any young quarterback, you're always wondering how they're going to react their first time in that spotlight. And with the Texans, we've almost been here, done that with them. The fact that, last year they are hosting a playoff game and get shut out in the first half against the Indianapolis Colts, lose at home. And you're like, all right, what are they going to do this time? Because Bill O'Brien, he's won 4 division titles in his 5 years there, but they haven't done much in the playoffs. They have, one playoff win in his time there. So I didn't have a good feel on who was truly a favorite in this game. And, it got off to kind of an ugly start for the Texans with, the Bills smartly taking the opening kickoff, going down the field. You have a little bit of uniqueness, creativeness there with them running that, what looked like at first it was going to be a reverse play with John Brown, and instead Josh Allen takes off along the left side. He hits him for the touchdown there, missed coverage by Whitley Merciless there that had him so wide open. And, the Texans had not really much going offensively. Hopkins was quiet in the first half, didn't have a catch, and just like, this is an ugly start for the Houston Texans here. I think the only thing that went their way in the first half is that you got a little bit of an emotional uplift with the return of J.J. Watt, stunningly 10 weeks after left pectoral surgery. And that helped the defense somewhat hold the Bills on their 2 drives in the second quarter to just field goals. So you had it at a very reasonable 13-0 at halftime. You're thinking, all right, Texans going to get the ball here, get off to a good start the second half. We'll start getting things going here. But then you have, kind of the controversy here, and it's what Bills fans are crying foul about today with, DeAndre Carter flipping the ball to the referee on the opening kickoff. And, listen, if he would have just caught the ball and act like he was going to run out and instead thrown the ball to the referee, I could understand how that could be construed as a fumble and Bills football. But you're watching it. Common sense has got to come into play here. You saw him throw out the arms like this. That has always been a sign of, all right, I'm giving myself up. I'm calling fair catch here. Whether the guy catches it or just lets the ball bounce in the end zone. He probably would have been better off if he just let the ball hit the ground in the end zone without trying to catch it. And that would have saved us from this craziness, Bills fans getting annoyed by that. But I didn't see much of a problem there. I thought, the common sense prevailed with the referees saying that, that was a fair catch and it should still be Texans ball. They continue to get off to a slow start. 3 and out. Hopkins on his first catch of the game fumbles and gives the Bills great field position at the 30-yard line. But this is where then things started to turn for the Texans, because it seemed like the Bills, after getting the fumble there, didn't seem what to do with themselves having the football there in the red zone. That their offense kind of in its own right got off to a slow start in the second half. You got the big sack by J.J. Watt on third down, which was kind of an emotional uplift that held the Bills to a field goal. And you're saying if the Texans can just score now, get some points on the board, get a touchdown, that will really get them going. And, hey, Deshaun Watson led them right down the field, seemingly with ease for a score. And just showing how special this guy is as a talent, the fact that he takes off, runs for the touchdown himself, and he's got two guys on his back trying to drag him down at about the 3-yard line, and he's still able to reach over like he's a superhero just to get the ball across for the score. Now, I was kind of surprised that they did go for the 2-point conversions, chasing points that quickly there. But I guess Bill O'Brien was thinking, all right, if I go for 2 here, then I'm going to have to keep going for 2 on touchdowns after this, which they did on the touchdown by Hyde a little bit later in the early part of the fourth quarter. And that also showed where the momentum fully was in the Texans' hands, because remember, 2 plays prior to that, or a play prior to that, excuse me, Watson fumbled the ball on that, what looked like he was trying to option it off to Hyde. And they were lucky to fall on the football and maintain possession there, so they could get the touchdown on the very next play to eventually take the lead on the 2-point conversion. And once they got the lead here, that kind of seemed to get Josh Allen a little bit unhinged, unglued here, because he did not. I know he had the game-tying field goal at the end of regulation to force overtime, but leading up to that, he made some very poor decisions, whether it be on the 3rd and 13, the intentional grounding turned out to be one of 2 penalties on that drive. Or how about, and this also goes to McDermott, how the hell are you going for a 4th and 27 at the 42-yard line? I know that would be, a 50-plus yard field goal attempt, so you're not going to trust your guy to go for that. Just punt the football. You had 3 timeouts. There was still, I think we were just at the 2-minute warning at the moment of this happening. Just kick the ball away. You'll get the football back. You ended up getting it back anyway, and after the Texans failed to convert the 4th and 1, a play I had no issue with, loved the aggressiveness there. But they punt the football away there at 4th and 27, pin them back toward their own goal line. Maybe they get better field position than starting at the 30 on their following drive. They were able to get down the field on a couple of plays to get within position for the game-tying field goal. And, here's where there was also a little bit of controversy. I didn't get why they ruled it on the field a first down on the Cole Beasley play, because to me it looked like he was at least a foot short, and that should have been a 4th and 1 situation. Instead, on the field, they ruled that first down, and on review, they said the call stands. Still, there's been no explanation to me on why they thought that was a first down to begin with, and that, because right there the clock was rolling. They would have had to have rushed the field goal kicking, the special teams group, onto the field in 21 seconds, and maybe that leads to the kicker not getting, as good a kick, because his emotions are everywhere. He's feeling rushed, trying to get this game-tying kick in here. But, they force overtime, and, you had a little bit of everything here in overtime, whether it be, the Bills having a costly penalty. And, a lot of people are going to have been screaming, complaining about this penalty. I don't believe that this penalty was truly what caused them to lose the game. I could understand being upset, saying that, what do you expect Cody Ford to do on the play with the blind side block there? He was coming back to stop a defender. I could also understand the referee's point of view, saying that, he's coming straight at the defender and hits into his side. I guess there's an argument to go each way there, but I didn't have a huge issue with that. The Bills, what really cost them the game, I go back to it. First half, when they settled for 2 field goals down the stretch, lacked aggressiveness before halftime, because you put them down 21-0 going into halftime, then you really have the Texans all messed up, worried that it's going to be another letdown at home. But hey, Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, the stars of this team, turn out to save the day for them, especially the final drive, whether it be, you have the 3rd and 18 completion to Duke Johnson, which I don't understand how he was that wide open on the play. And then, 2 plays later, Deshaun Watson looks like he's dead for rights in the backfield, going to be hit a couple times. He avoids a sack. He's got 4 guys coming at him, and hits Jones for a 34-yard play that set up the eventual game-winning field goal. And that, that's what you need in the postseason. You need your stars to come up big for you when it matters most, and that's what they got from Deshaun Watson in the second half. Got from Hopkins, who, as I mentioned, was shut out in the first half. And I know in the first half he didn't do much, was only on the field for about 40% of their defensive snaps, didn't do much statistically outside of the sack on Allen on the 3rd down early in the 3rd. But J.J. Watt being back, being out there, willing to risk his health, risk re-tearing that left pec, I thought gave that team and that crowd an emotional uplift that it really needed in this setting. And he provided enough pressure on Allen through the second half to help them get this win and help them advance to next week for the divisional round. And, after this, I started being, a Jets fan, being someone who obviously was rooting for the Texans to win this game. I started to get a little bit greedy there. Started thinking about, the what-if possibility. Could both AFC East rivals go down in the same night? And, hey, I got my wish. I got my prayer. Because this was the last team the New England Patriots wanted to see on Wild Card Weekend. This is the last team they would have wanted to see in their first playoff game. A team that, has the us against the world card out there. No one respects us. No one believes in us in the Tennessee Titans. A team that plays solid enough defense, has the best ground rushing attack in the league, and a quarterback that doesn't turn over the football, and a head coach that knows the tendencies of the coach on the other side, because he played for him for the majority of his career. And all of that mixed together spelled a Tennessee victory on Saturday night. Would it be, Derrick Henry looking like a man amongst boys out there, running for 180 yards, $135 after contact? Or how about, decision-making in the first half? Would it be, the Titans pulling one out of Belichick's book? What's been a trademark over these last 20 years, when Belichick wins the coin toss, he always defers to the second half so he can try and get that double whammy, get that last drive before halftime, and then score there, and then score coming out of the locker room for half. And the Titans smartly were not going to allow that. Teams trade scores early on. And just when it looks like Patriots are going to seize control of this game, they got a 10-7 lead, 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. And, the Titans defense stands up, stopping Burkhead and Michelle on 3 consecutive running plays to force a field goal there and allow enough time for them to march down the field for Derrick Henry's go-ahead touchdown. And I didn't understand why not one time on that first and goal possession, Belichick and company didn't, or McDaniels, I guess, because he's in charge of the play calling there, didn't call for one, screen pass, one, play action situation there, because the Titans, knew that they haven't had the greatest passing attack in the world this year, knew that they were going to try and run the ball. I mean, it's almost football 101 for goal and go on the 1 yard line. Teams more times than not are going to run the football, so why not try and trick them, knowing that they had their goal line package out there. They had a lot of what we call the big fatties out there, not a lot of corners and safeties out there. I think they had one corner out there on and one safety out there on each of those respective plays. But no, that was kind of baffling. And as well, the lack of aggressiveness before halftime. James White running out of bounds on a 3rd and 8, 2 yards short of first down, forcing them to just go for the Hail Mary on 4th down there before halftime, and now leading the Patriots into the halftime down by a point there. Just didn't understand a lot about what they were doing there, and it continued. The mistakes in the second half, especially, they get that big play downfield by Ben Watson. You're thinking, all right, they're set up here. They're in the red zone. Comes back, that Shaq Mason commits that penalty to kill the play downfield and force them into a 3rd and 20 situation with a holding penalty. And the Patriots just couldn't seem to get anything going. And, the moment that, as the Patriots hater I am, I started getting a little bit concerned is when Tennessee, even though they're not scoring after the Derrick Henry touchdown, they're still maintaining control of this game. Henry, they're continuously giving him the football, and when he's not out there, giving the ball to Lewis, thinking, all right, they're eating away clock time here, eating away potential opportunities for the Patriots. First play of the fourth quarter, Tannehill's back in shotgun, decides to throw the ball down the field and gets picked off by Duron Harmon. And I'm thinking, A, what the hell is that? And B, you might have just lost this game right here. You might have given the opportunity to the Patriots to finally wake up on offense, but they still could not get anything done. And what I liked here is, how much Mike Vrabel outwitted his former coach, outwitted Belichick, not just with the aforementioned deferring to the second half, but also how about with what he did there in the final 6 minutes, where on 4th and 14, he kept just intentionally taking, false start and delay of game penalties prior to 5 minutes left in the quarter, and that kept restarting the play clock and kept the game clock rolling, and they were able to do that up until 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, essentially taking a minute 40 off the clock with those penalties mixed with the offsides penalties the Patriots committed in the middle there a little. And it's funny, Belichick was complaining about this after the game, and I do give him this bit of credit here. Earlier this season, he did that same thing against the Jets and said that this is a rule that probably should be changed here. And that comes back to eventually bite him in the postseason. I mean, you look at both of these AFC teams, AFC East teams. They had things that were kind of eerie, ironical coincidences. The Bills coming back from 16-0 on opening day to win. And in their playoff game, they blow a 16-0 lead. Patriots, they used the penalty clock game in a Monday nighter against the Jets in Week 7. That ends up being part of the reason why they lost on Saturday night. Mix in with the fact that they couldn't stop Derrick Henry. Mix in the fact that they had no real threat downfield in this game. I mean, Edelman was completely quiet throughout the night. Only had, I think, 2 catches for the entire game. He barely even realized he was out there for the most part. And the Titans were able to control the game, play their type of game here. Had what I thought was the unsung hero in Brett Kern with 4 punts inside the Patriots' 20-yard line to give them bad field position in the second half. All of that mixed together, combined with a Logan Ryan interception with 9 seconds to go, has the Patriots going home for the first time on Wild Card Weekend in over a decade. For the first time in 9 years since the Bart Scott can't wait game, the Patriots are not going to the AFC title game. And it's such a beautiful sight to be had. It's such a beautiful moment for fans everywhere, whether you're even whether you're a Jet fan, a Bills fan, Dolphins fan, Steelers fan, Ravens fan, Chiefs fan, anybody who's not a New England Patriots fan, you were celebrating, you were rejoicing because not only the Patriots lose, but now you have so many questions heading into this offseason. So many what ifs, wondering, is it the end of Tom Brady in New England with... I know he said it's highly unlikely he retires, but maybe Giselle gets in his ear and says enough is enough, time for you to come home. You're going to be 43 next August, and I don't want to live in New England anymore. Maybe he leaves the Pats, goes signs somewhere else, whether it be, the Los Angeles Chargers, whether it be, Chicago Bears. One idea that came to my mind is Carolina Panthers if Josh McDaniels goes there as their head coach. That's an idea, going to the NFC. So I heard one whack doodle idea today. Maybe Jerry Jones comes calling. He decides not to pay Dak Prescott and brings in Tom Brady to be his quarterback for 2 years. I mean, for the first time in a long time, there is uncertainty around the New England Patriots. And no one's shedding a tear. No one's crying for them because they've had one of the great dynasties in the history of sports for the last 20 years. A lot of that due to it being the right time, right place with a head coach that people thought was a loser after his days in Cleveland, a quarterback that was a 6th-round draft pick that no one believed in, being in a division full of dysfunctional, unorganized teams that couldn't get out of their own way on a consistent basis, and a quarterback that marries a supermodel that's making $40-50 million a year. So with his salary from the team, he's able to take hometown discounts and allow them to re-sign his weapons, allow them to be able to re-sign the Rob Gronkowski's, Wes Welker's, Julian Edelman's of the world. Keep his teammates around when other teams aren't necessarily able to do that due to the fact that a fifth of their salary cap is going to their quarterback. So it's a beautiful day. Hopefully, I can't completely celebrate this because until that moment where I see Tom Brady either announces his retirement or signs with another team, I'm not going to believe it's 100% over. But for the first time in a long time, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And for the first time in a long time, I could put my feet up next weekend watching the NFL playoffs. No angst, no anxiety, no agita, no rooting interest whatsoever, because the Patriots are out of the postseason. And as I continue to say, it's a beautiful day for 31 other NFL fan bases everywhere. after seeing the results of Saturday night. All right, I'm going to take a break here so I can go drink a little bit of water, try and get my voice back going here, but still a lot to get to for the next 40 minutes or so here. Give us some thoughts on the two NFC games yesterday, as well as some sad news around the sports world that occurred over the last week. A funny story involving a boar. Shouldn't be surprised about. NFL coaching candidates, jobs being taken, who's still needing a new head coach. So a lot to get to for the next 40 minutes. Glad you could join me today. Remember, if you're watching the live version, if at any point you feel like calling in and expressing your opinion, be sure to do so. You see the number on the screen there. So for the next little while or so here, sit back, relax, help put your feet up on the table if you feel like it, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
All right, welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Once again, hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoons, the first Monday of the new year. And I think this is probably the last week here where you can say Happy New Year to someone. I mean, there tends to get the point in January where if you haven't seen someone where it's like, all right, enough already. We know it's 2020, move on. Let's get with the program here. But, for this week, you could still, if you haven't seen a person yet, drop the Happy New Year line in. I think you're okay with that. What was great about this weekend, beyond the fact that I got to watch all four of these games, is that none of them were blowouts. You see, that's what I hate about an NFL postseason game, unless it's my team doing the blowing out. I hate watching bad NFL playoff games. I want to sit there for the full 3.5 hours and be fully invested in enjoying the game, not sitting there an hour and a half in wondering, all right, what the hell else is on? Can I watch something else until the next playoff game gets started? So that was the best part about this weekend, is that every one of these games had you on the edge of your seat, was exciting. The Texans coming back against the Bills in the fashion that they did. The Titans going up and upsetting the Patriots at Gillette in a game that really should not surprise anybody, because if you're a real football fan and have watched the Titans all year, you would see that they are a very underrated, underappreciated team, and the Patriots offense has, pretty much disappeared for the most part this year. And they've been on a downward spiral ever since that Week 9 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. They come in 8-0 and got smacked down at the bank in B-more like that. But then you're getting to Sunday, the two NFC games, and you're wondering, can we be greedy here as sports fans? Can we have as enjoyable, time invested games between the Saints and Vikings and the Seahawks and the Eagles? And the answer to that was a resounding yes. And, probably more so than anything that happened this week was the Viking that surprised me was the Vikings winning in New Orleans against the Saints, because I could actually see it happen. Even though I picked the Patriots to win on Saturday night, I could actually see it happening. That the Titans win that game. I saw a road to that happening. I did not see a road to this happening yesterday with the Vikings upsetting the Saints. I didn't think it would be a blowout. I didn't think some people had it being a one-sided ass kicking. I saw a lot of lopsided score predictions thinking that this was going to be like a 35-17, 35-20 kind of game for New Orleans. But I thought, the Vikings, a postseason game, they're going to come out here, they're going to fight. It was just a matter of, what Kirk Cousins are we going to get here? Is he going to finally show up on the big stage? And he finally had his defining moment, finally had his defining game as the Vikings went in to upset the Saints in overtime 26-20 yesterday. Now, it looked bad for them early with the fumble by Thielen in their own territory, giving the ball right back to the Saints. But their defense stepped up. Their defense created pressure on Breeze with the double-team sack by Griffin and Hunter. And that would go to be a story in this game because they seemed, even though they had a low sack total yesterday, I think they only had 3 sacks for the day. They had pressure on Breeze for most of the day. Didn't allow the Saints to get their ground game going much at all either, and were able to control the line of scrimmage for the most part, allowing for time for their offense to get going here a little bit. And early on, with these teams trading field goals, you thought it was going to be a defensive slugfest with each of them having consecutive 3-and-out possessions. But that's when one of the stories of this game started to show up here, and that was one Taysom Hill, who's been, if you watch the Saints this year, has been a unique weapon for this team because he could do a little bit of everything. Being a former college quarterback, they put him out there sometimes for wildcat plays and have him run. Sometimes he surprises the opposition by throwing. They put him out there on special teams chances, and they'll do a fake punt, snapping the ball back to him, and he'll run the football to get the first down. He's been an integral piece to this team, and what's funny is, Buck and Aikman are calling this game. Aikman's talking about how, I don't like having plays where, Drew Brees is on the sidelines. I don't like that much after, Hill's 11-yard run. And what does he do? He backs up and throws a 50-yard pass down the middle to Dante Harris that gets him in great position for the Alvin Kamara touchdown there. And, it was this part of the game you started to see a little bit of frustration with both teams. For one, you saw frustration on the Vikings sidelines with Harrison Smith getting an earful. The fact that Harris got past him so easy for that 50-yard bomb. And you're also seeing, before that, complaining by Stephon Diggs, the fact that he's not getting the football much, wasn't very much an active part of this offense. The key pieces for Cousins yesterday were mostly Rudolph, Cook, and Adam Thielen, and Diggs, kind of acting like a little bit of a petulant child, a little bit of a diva there, throwing his helmet to the ground, caring a little bit too much about the name on the back of the jersey rather than the name on the front and the symbol on the helmet there. And you thought after that touchdown, all right, time for the Saints to take control of this game. They hold the Vikings to a field goal on the following drive, stall them after getting a first down at the 5-yard line. But then that's where I thought, Breeze made one of his big mistakes of the game. And Breeze, by no means, played well yesterday. And you could argue that he was the second best quarterback on the field for his team, third best quarterback on the field in general. When they got the 3rd and 6 at around I think it was the 40-yard line, with about 20 seconds before the 2-minute warning, I'm thinking, all right, they're not going to run another play here. Wait for the 2-minute warning here. Get a little bit organized. They rush a play at the line of scrimmage, and he throws that interception to Anthony Harris that seemed to give the Vikings a little bit of life, give them a little bit of a jolt there, and they had enough time to go down the field for Dalvin Cook's first touchdown of the game. And I mentioned tension on the Vikings sidelines. There was also some tension on the Saints sidelines second half. You get that long completion to Adam Thielen late in the third quarter, and you start seeing some arguing going on with Lattimore and the defensive backs coach Aaron Glenn to the point where teammates are having to pull Lattimore away and walk him down the sidelines, have a conversation with him, calm down the young man. But even at 2010, entering the fourth quarter, I still thought, all right, there's still enough time for the Saints. They still got enough of they're going to have a couple of possessions here, enough time for them to wake up. Plus, the Vikings have had a tendency in the past to blow leads like this. Remember, 2 years ago, Minneapolis Miracle. Before that, they had a 10-0 lead heading into the fourth quarter, blew that, and then you had the amazing play by Keenum and Diggs that won them that game. Wondering maybe this time luck wouldn't be on their side. And the Saints had a couple of big drives to get down the field. You had the touchdown pass to Hill in the end zone, continuing what was an amazing day for him. They had to settle for a field goal right before overtime, and a lot of that is because of their lack of organization there with the offensive line getting called for a false start, and they rolled 10 seconds off the clock there because I guess it's in the rule book. In the final 2 minutes on a running clock, you commit that kind of penalty, 10 seconds comes off the clock there. But I know Saints fans are going to complain about overtime, how the game ended for them, with the fact that A, they never saw the football, and B, the Kyle Rudolph touchdown in the end zone, where you could argue that he committed offensive pass interference. And yes, he did push off with his right hand there, but I didn't think it was outrageous enough to warrant the penalty at that point, especially with the closest referee to it standing behind Rudolph without a view of it. My only issue there is the fact that they didn't seem to have enough of a review there. There wasn't, they waste our time and review everything else, but they're Al Riveron and company back in New York were like, nah, it's good. We thought there was enough contact on both sides. We're not going to ask for the referees to go more review here. It seemed like the only thing they were looking at was making sure he maintained possession of the football throughout the catch process. So, Saints fans, they're upset today. Third year in a row they lose in heartbreak. Would it be 2 years ago, the aforementioned Minneapolis Miracle? Last year, the outrageous no call of pass interference by the Rams that should have led them to winning the game in regulation. I mean, you could have called like 3 or 4 different plays, penalties on that play alone. And then how ironic that play leads to pass interference becoming reviewable, and a non-pass interference call is what ends up ending their season. It's just bad luck. I don't think the NFL's out to get them, and I don't understand why they would. It's just, hey, it didn't go their way. These things happen. The other team's allowed to play. The other team's allowed to try to win the game. Sometimes someone else just has a day, and for Kirk Cousins, this was finally his day. I actually, even though I had no rooting interest in the game, I found myself happy for the guy after the game. He gets knocked all the time for the fact he's 0-9 on Monday Night Football. He's 0-1 in this one playoff appearance with the Redskins years back. The fact that he has only about a 30% win percentage against teams with a winning record. Thought, you know what, good for him. Good for him to finally have that, moment in the postseason. Good for him to finally have that moment with his teammates to celebrate in the locker room. Didn't have any problem with him pulling out the old, you like that, with his teammates celebrating there. That's what sports is about. You love that emotion, that energy there for that team and that fan base. And, you follow that up with kind of a lackluster game. I will admit that. This was probably the most lackluster game of the four on the wild card weekend, with the Seahawks going into Philly and defeating the Eagles. And the reason I say this is lackluster is just because of the early injury to Carson Wentz, leaving after the first quarter, with a head injury. Jadeveon Clowney has not typically been a dirty player, but that was a dirty shot there. Because, I don't understand what the referees are looking at. They're saying, oh, well, he was a runner and he was diving forward. That's why we couldn't call any kind of penalty there. You look at the guy, Jadeveon Clowney led with the crown of his helmet to the back of the guy's helmet as he's on the ground. If that's not a helmet-to-helmet penalty, what is? What do you have to do? What does he have to run over and kick the guy in the face to get a penalty? And I'm not saying he wasn't trying to hurt the guy. I think we can all agree on that. But that clearly was a penalty. That really bugged me. That had me bummed out because, here we have Carson Wentz has dealt with so many injury issues over the last couple of years. 2 years ago, the ACL in, week 13, I think it was, that led him to missing that entire postseason run that Nick Foles became a legend off of. Last year, he's got the back injury, and the Eagles back into the postseason, and they win another postseason game without him. He's finally getting his opportunity to play in a playoff game. Led them in what was a miraculous run down the stretch, and winning games where they had no wide receivers. They're playing with their backup tight end, playing with backup running backs. There's injuries along the right side of their offensive line, and they still managed to get in the postseason. He's finally got his shot and was unable to be part of it, unable to truly enjoy this moment, this day. And I'm not saying it would have changed the outcome, would have meant the Eagles won the game, but maybe it would have made it a little more entertaining because, McCown came in there and he played well. He finally had his opportunity with being the oldest player in NFL history to make their playoff debut. Played well for the most part. The problem for the Eagles was their offense. They had 5 drives inside the Seahawks 35-yard line and stalled each time. They had to settle for 3 field goals, turn the ball over on downs on their final 2 drives. Even got, favorable calls with Trey Flowers committing 2 pass interference penalties in the red zone. I still didn't take advantage of either one of those opportunities. Add in the fact that, even with the Seahawks not having much of a ground game yesterday, Russell Wilson was still able to dominate through the air, especially to DK Metcalf, shutting up any of his doubters, showing that guy's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, being what was clearly a first-round talent, falling to the second round, and he made some unbelievable plays yesterday, whether it be breaking loose on the 53-yard touchdown, catching as he's hitting the ground at the 2-yard line, still being able to get up and roll into the end zone. Or how about the 30-yard catch right after the 2-minute warning that essentially iced the game for them, forcing the Eagles to use their final timeout. Getting a big win there in the city of brotherly love to keep their postseason hopes alive, or their season alive, should I say. But it's I don't want to say it's a bitter pill for the Eagles, because they did win a Super Bowl 2 years ago, but you feel bad for Carson Wentz. You feel bad, after everything he's been through, that it had to end like this. You feel bad for McCown for how much he busted his ass out there, finally getting, after 17 years, his first chance to play in a playoff game, and you saw how emotional it was for him, not knowing if he'll ever be back in this opportunity after the game. But, good win for the Seahawks. Hey, it's about surviving and advancing. They're not all going to be masterpieces. They win, what felt like a kind of comfortable game, with the fact that Eagles didn't have much offense in the red zone. And now move on to Green Bay next week, where, I give them a shot. I give them an opportunity. I've told you, I'm not impressed by this Green Bay Packers 13-3 season. They're going to have to win this on the ground, and with their defense having one hell of a pass rush there against Russell Wilson, because Rodgers has been good this year. He just hasn't been his prototypical Hall of Fame self as this year goes on. But hey, we'll see what happens next Sunday. That's why they play the games, I guess they say. All right, going to take a break here, come back on the other side, mixing some NBA and Major League Baseball, because it was kind of a sad week on one end, but also a weird week as well. So continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Now, it was a very melancholy week last week because this annoyed me. I forgot to get to this on last week's podcast, but 10 days ago, the radio icon Don Imus passed away. And listen, I know he was not one of the most beloved figures in the world, was very controversial. He was a guy that you either loved him or you hated him. We know about some of the controversies that have occurred in his life and in his career. But you think about one of the major sports stations in this country, WFAN Radio in New York City, kind of one of the pillars, one of the founding fathers of sports radio, should we say, that station was. And you can't write the history of that station without Don Imus. Hell, that station might not be what it has become today without Don Imus. Especially when you think about it, his career really had 3 stints. He goes from being a radio jock, with music and whatnot, to then becoming a sports guy, to then getting into the political landscape of talk radio. So he had one hell of a multi-dimensional kind of career there, and there probably wouldn't be a Mike and the Mad Dog without him. There wouldn't be a Boomer and Carden, what would eventually turn into Boomer and Geo without him. Because, hey, if Don doesn't get fired in 2007 with the comments he made toward the Rutgers women's basketball team, that spot may not open up. That maybe someone else eventually hires either Boomer or Carden, and their time slot doesn't truly open up there. So, he was a big part of that station, big part of radio, and I think his career deserves true respect and appreciation. Now, there was a couple other deaths along the week, this time in the sports world. One that caught me by surprise, one that not really surprised me. The first one was Don Larsen passing away last Wednesday. He was 90 years old, and you say, 90, that's a nice long life there, but hadn't heard anything about him being ill or anything, and he had still been at Old Timers Day each of the last several years, even after the passing of Yogi Berra, still seemed to be as full of life as he had always been. And, you think about Don Larsen's career. Don Larsen, he has memorabilia in the Hall of Fame, but he didn't have a Hall of Fame career. He only won, I think it was 81 games over the course of his 14-year career. Was kind of a journeyman pitcher for the most part. I mean, he is right up there as far as most losses in a given season. Had a 3-21 season with the Baltimore Orioles before he joined the Yankees. But he's part of the fabric and the history of baseball because of one day, one game, Game 5 of the 1956 World Series, when he goes out there and throws a perfect game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. And what made that situation even more incredible is the fact that he didn't walk a batter. He didn't even realize he didn't walk a batter. And this is a guy that usually averaged, 6 walks per game over the course of his career. And for him to go out there, throw a perfect game against that Dodgers lineup that, you look at it, was a pretty stacked lineup for back in 1956. Is an unbelievable feat, unbelievable accomplishment. It was the first perfect game in, I think, over 30 years in baseball. Prior to that, there hadn't been one since 1924. There have been a bunch of no-hitters along the way, but not a perfect game. And he throws not just the first perfect game in 30 years, but the first perfect game in postseason history, and what has turned out to be, 63 years since then, and no one's thrown another perfect game. You had Roy Halladay throw a no-hitter in the postseason in 2010. But outside of that, no one has got 9 innings without allowing a base runner and completed that game in a postseason game. And, you say, he lived off that. Big deal. You know what? There's no shame in that. That made him a lot of money in his post-playing career, and I don't blame him. If I had that same moment, I would do the same thing. But you know what? It's going to be different not seeing that Don Larsen at Yankee Stadium this year for Old Timers Day. But I just wish the best to him, his family. May his soul rest in peace. The same with the news that occurred earlier in that day with the former NBA commissioner David Stern passing away. And you could probably have seen this coming, unfortunately, with the fact that 3 weeks prior to that, he suffered a brain hemorrhage when I believe he was out to dinner at a restaurant when this occurred. And, just when I heard that, I'm like, unfortunately, he may not have long on this earth. So I began reminiscing on his career as NBA commissioner. And listen, I wasn't a big fan of his the whole time he was the commissioner of the league. I thought there were some times where, maybe he didn't handle things the right way, especially, with the Tim Donaghy gambling scandal, or the fact that he stepped in and voided the Chris Paul to the Lakers trade. Because if you remember at the time, the league technically owned the New Orleans Hornets. They didn't have a true ownership group there yet. And in the fact that he allowed Donald Sterling to remain the Clippers owner for as long as he did. And we knew how much of a racist and a bigot that guy was. What a true all-out embarrassment he was to the league. And why I've credited Adam Silver ever since becoming commissioner with how he handled that as his first major act, banning that guy from the league for life. But there's no denying the credit that David Stern deserves for the growth of this league, for this league becoming what it's become, whether it be realizing that this is a stars game. This isn't about the logos more so than any other sport. This isn't about the logos on the front of the jersey when it comes to off the court stuff. You got to market these players, and started that with Magic and Bird, continued that, especially with Michael Jordan. And that continued on to this day, where these players are essentially their own enterprise. Where when you think of NBA, you don't think of the Lakers, the Celtics, the Warriors. You think of LeBron James. You think of Kevin Durant. You think of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry. You think of the stars, the players' names before you think of the teams on the team names and that when it comes to the marketing. Also, global expansion of the sport with the international training camps leading to them recruiting international players. I mean, without that, you probably don't have the likes of Dirk Nowitzki or Yao Ming part of this great sport. The overwhelming support that he showed for Magic Johnson after his announcement of AIDS, announcing that he had AIDS, and standing behind him, making sure he was part of the All-Star game that year, and letting him know that you will be back in this league at some point. I believe that. The other off the court stuff he handled well, whether it be remember there was one time the league was on tape delay, especially with playoff games. So he got games on TV live, as well as moving to cable, leaving NBC for ESPN and TNT. And it's remarkable some of the things that he was involved in. Helping the launch of the WNBA and the G League. The digital expansion to NBA TV, as well as the League Pass, allowing you to watch any game anywhere across the country at any time. And probably his most daunting task was the handling of the Malice of the Palace situation with those suspensions that needed to be handed down. And he handled those beautifully, quite frankly. So, he deserves a lot of credit for his years as commissioner. You may not have always liked his decisions, but you have to respect the man. You have to respect the way he handled things. So, rest in peace to David Stern, Don Larsen, Don Imus. As I said, in each one of them's respective fields, whether it be Don Larsen in baseball, Imus in radio, and David Stern in the NBA. You can't write the history of any of those entities without the three of those men and the impact they had on their business and on their careers. All right, going to take one last break, come back on the other side, close things up for this Monday afternoon. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools. Redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Big finish here. Let's close things out correctly here this week. Now, as I mentioned, this past weekend in the NFL playoffs was amazing, and I just hope as a sports fan we can be greedy and get that same kind of level of play, the same kind of excitement in these games this coming weekend, because there's bound to be one upset. There's bound to be one game where just the underdog comes out there and surprises us. And I don't know whether that will be on Saturday when the Vikings are playing the Niners, or the Titans are playing the Ravens, or Sunday when the Texans are playing the Chiefs and the Seahawks playing the Packers. But there's going to be some slip-up here. We had slip-ups this week. You have two wild card teams still alive in the mix here. The 2 6 seeds are still in the mix here. So why not? 3 wild cards. So forgot the Seahawks didn't win their division, even though they had 12 wins here. And I give them a puncher's chance against this Packers team. That, Lambeau Field is not the insurmountable home field that it used to be. We've seen teams go in there, especially, remember when the Packers were looking to repeat as champions. What happened in 2011? The Giants went in there and smoked them in the division round. They went to the NFC title game en route to winning another Super Bowl. So it has not been, the daunting task it used to be at Lambeau, and I would not be surprised if the Seahawks win. Hell, I really would not be surprised if any of these teams win. So, hopefully we get some kind of excitement there. I don't know if you guys remember, but way back when I originally started this podcast, I used to do a spot on here. I called it my Star of the Week and my Idiot of the Week. And I stopped doing that for 2 reasons. One, I thought it was too time consuming. And 2, when it came to the Star of the Week, I've found that it became a unhealthy trend that every week it seemed like it was either Peyton Manning or Derek Jeter. Seemingly every other week it was one of those 2 guys I was naming Star of the Week of that. And I was having a hard time at times finding Idiot of the Week. Well, I think we've already found two guys that can go up for Idiot of the Year, and we're only 6 days into the new year. One is Yoenis Cespedes and his nonsense. And you knew that there was some kind of crazy reason for why he broke his ankle last year. You knew that it wasn't just something, he was, I think at the time they said he was getting off a horse or something on his ranch, and he stepped in, a pothole or something. You knew that there was something crazy that went on here. Well, I cannot believe the report that came out this week with saying that he broke his ankle because of a wild boar, that he was setting up boar traps on his property. One got caught in one of the traps. He goes to release him from the trap, and it either startled him or pushed him back, and that led him to breaking his ankle. That is just, that's so Yoenis Cespedes. It's almost mind-numbing there, but hey, at least I'm glad we found out that story there. At least I'm glad we found that out. I'm sure Met fans are rejoicing because, hey, his salary this year got reduced from what was supposed to be $29 million all the way down to about, 10-12 million he's going to be making this year. And that drop in salary, they've tried to deny it, but that drop in salary is probably what led them to being able to sign Dylan Patantis. So you know what? Good for them on that one. But at least we found out that story. The story I'm waiting to find out is, what's going on with Domingo German. And, we finally found out his suspension, revealing that, he's been given an 81-game suspension by Major League Baseball for violation of the domestic violence policy. It will be 63 to start this year because they will add in the 18 that he served on administrative leave last year. And there have been a lot of Yankee fans that I've either seen on Twitter or friends that I have that are Yankee fans that have texted me saying, they shouldn't have put him on leave last year. They should just let him keep pitching. Maybe we win a World Series with him. Well, number one, get your head straight, all right? There's a little something called morality and legality here, all right? He committed what was technically a crime. Now, I know he didn't actually serve any jail time and the charges were dropped here, but he did, from everything we know, commit some kind of violent act toward his girlfriend. And you can't, allow him to continue playing on through that, all right? Playing in Major League Baseball, it's a privilege. It's not a requirement. It's not something that, they have to allow him to do. He happens to be talented enough to be a Major League Baseball player. And part of his contract in all these sports contracts is something called a morality clause as far as your off the field conduct. And when you break that, go against something that is A, in your contract, and B, in your collective bargaining agreement, you deserve to be punished. I mean, how bad of a look would that have been if, MLB says, all right, we got to put the guy on administrative leave, and then the Yankees turn to him and say, but wait a minute, we're in a postseason run. We need this guy playing for us. How bad does that look for the Yankees? How bad does that look for them? That probably costs them sponsorships off the field, probably costs them millions upon millions of dollars. I mean, that you will not believe some of the dumbasses that have actually texted me in the last couple months saying that, they should have just had him play through it anyway. I mean, especially there are people who, are married that have kids that are texting me thinking that, it would be all right if they let him play after committing a domestic violence act without serving any kind of suspension, any kind of punishment whatsoever, just as long as the Yankees win a World Series title. And the lack of common sense with some of the people I know sometimes is just remarkable, unbelievable how they can run it through their minds that it would be okay to let Domingo German play without serving any kind of punishment. We don't know what exactly he did, but obviously he did something if he's A, accepting this punishment, and B, the Players Association didn't try and fight it at the time and is not trying to fight this now, as well as the fact he's going through counseling. He's given his that part of his paycheck away to charities. And something had to go down here to have served this length of a suspension, the longest we've ever seen for any domestic violence suspension. I just want to know what it is. I want to know what this guy did to enforce this kind of suspension, and so we in the public can have our own judgment of him, so that we can decide whether, if you're a fan, you're going to still buy his jersey or t-shirt. Though, I mean, who's really buying? I know he won 18 games last year, but who would really be buying Domingo German's t-shirt if that is actually available? And so that there's some kind of public pressure on the Yankees potentially, so that they could decide whether they even want this guy around next year when he does come back on June the 5th. Now, the other person that you could also argue is an idiot this week, and this is probably the dumbest one of them all, and it's not Jerry Jones for how he handled the firing of Jason Garrett, the fact that he had 3 meetings with him over this week before firing him. I actually think he made a good choice in who he hired for his new head coach, bringing in Mike McCarthy, a guy who's won a Super Bowl, had a winning track record, went to the playoffs 9 times in his first 11 years there. I think he'll do a pretty good job there, unlike, the idea that was floated around on Friday with him potentially hiring Marvin Lewis, which now that seems like it might have just been his token Rooney Rule interview. The real bonehead idiot this week was the comments by Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony, first time back at Madison Square Garden in almost 2 years. As I don't think the Rockets, in the limited time he was there last year, went to MSG with him still on the team. He returns there as a member of the Portland Trailblazers, and even though the Trailblazers are not off to a hot start this season, Melo's actually been playing pretty well for them. Playing full starters minutes now, averaging 17, 18 points a game, but a pretty good pickup for them. It just, unfortunately for them, not translating to wins. But he returns to Madison Square Garden, gets a thunderous ovation during the pregame introductions, which you'd expect. Don't blame him there for that, or blame the fans for that. He's getting cheered when he's taking shots in the first half, and he's getting cheered when he's making shots in the second half as the Blazers are trying to make a run here and take back the lead. Eventually, the Knicks would win the game here, and he would still get a standing ovation as he's coming off the court, which shows you where Knicks fans' heads are at right now. They care more about adulation from Melo than actually winning games, and why would they? Why should they? This is kind of a rebuilding year for them anyway. But the comments by Carmelo Anthony after the game really have to make you wonder what someone's thinking every once in a while. The fact that this guy would tell the media that not only was he looking up at the rafters at the retired jerseys up there, but he was closing his eyes, envisioning his jersey being up there amongst, the likes of, Clyde Frazier, amongst the likes of Patrick Ewing, amongst the other Knicks legends, amongst, Willis Reed, hoping that his number 7 is up there eventually. Are you freaking kidding me? Carmelo Anthony wanting his number retired by the Knicks? First off, he was there 6.5 seasons. In those 6.5 seasons, they made the playoffs 3 times. They won 1 playoff round in that 54-win season back in 2012, 2013, when they defeated the Celtics. And if you don't remember, they almost blew that series. They had a 3-0 lead. The Celtics won 2 games. The Knicks had a huge lead in Game 6, and the Celtics almost rallied back and won that game. You remember all the shenanigans with J.R. Smith and the flagrant foul that he committed against Jason Terry that led to him getting a 1-game suspension. And, outside of that, the Knicks really were not good the entire time this guy was here. And, he had some good players around him, Amari Stoudemire, Chauncey Billups, they brought in Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, J.R. Smith, Kenyon Martin, Rasheed Wallace were here for a little bit of that. But they really weren't a great team, really didn't do anything memorable in his 6.5 seasons with the Knicks. And this guy thinks that his number should be retired? I mean, Melo, please, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. Appreciate that enough. You're probably going to go your entire career without winning an NBA title. But to say you hope your number's retired by the Knicks, I mean, that would be like, that'd be like if Bobby Abreu said he hopes the Yankees retire his number. Or, trying to think if, Darren Williams wanted his number retired by the Brooklyn Nets, because he made the playoffs a couple of times with them. Or, with the Mets, if the likes of, Carlos Delgado or Pedro Martinez were hoping that their numbers would get retired. And it would make absolutely no sense. It would be an embarrassment if the Knicks ever even considered this. But the weird thing is, I could actually see it happening. Because James Dolan, you see, he brings back these former players all the time. He loves these guys. So, and Melo was one of his favorites. When Donnie Walsh didn't want to make that trade during the season, he stepped in and made that trade happen, trading away a lot of depth on that team. So, would it be the dumbest thing in the world? Yes. But in all actuality, I really would not be surprised if Carmelo Anthony had his jersey retired by the Knicks, because it would be the most Knicksian thing ever to happen. Then again, though, you could say we've been saying that same thing for the better part of the last 20 years. And that, my friends, is Keeping It Sports with M3 from Monday, January 6th, 2020. Everyone enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the postseason games this weekend. I'll be back to talk about those same time next week. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.